One of the touchiest subjects still to this day, even after 167 days, over 5 months, is the walkout heard around the world by WWE superstars Sasha Banks and Naomi on the May 16th edition of Monday Night Raw. Now perhaps, if chairman at the time Vincent Kennedy McMahon chose to handle business with Sasha and Naomi privately, it wouldn't have been heard around the world. But that's not what happened. Instead, VKM had his lead commentator, Michael Cole, announce to the world the following live SmackDown broadcast, and I quote, "Sasha Banks and Naomi let us all down. The WWE Women's Tag Team Champions walked out of the show and out of the building during Monday Night Raw. Their actions disappointed millions of WWE fans and their fellow superstars." He then proceeded to announce their subsequent suspensions. Why would Vince McMahon bring this backstage drama to the forefront? The answer is rather simple. Deflect. Sasha and Naomi were basically muzzled under contract and not allowed to speak on the situation. Whereas for Vinnie Mac, quite the opposite. He had a worldwide stage to tell his side of the story, to make sure the audience knew that it was Sasha and Naomi that went into business for themselves, and the wonderful, amazingly friendly giant that is WWE did nothing wrong. VKM chose to villainize and tear down Sasha Banks and Naomi publicly, to portray them as two women ungrateful for their opportunities and unwilling to resolve their issues in a productive and respectable way. Which in reality, and excuse my words here, but it is complete and utter bullshit, and is extraordinarily the opposite. VKM knew this, but when you've played the role of God for so long, and pulled the strings as head puppet master for decades, the truth will always play second fiddle to ego and greed. VKM chose to deflect from truth and reality. The truth is that Sasha, Naomi, Mercedes, and Trinity had tried to get their message across to McMahon for far too long, that they felt they had earned a better booking in the company. Not deserved, but earned. But those attempts to get their message across to the chairman fell on deaf ears time after time, and the reality is Vince McMahon fed them lies time after time, and produced no changes or even showcased an ounce of care into what was bothering Mercedes and Trinity. For Sasha, she was fed the same exact lie twice. Several years ago, put into a tag team with Bayley, known as the Boss and Hug Connection. They were promised that the company was going to focus on and build a meaningful and competitive women's tag team division, and that she and Bayley would spearhead its inception and direction, starting with a memorable title reign. Of course, when the smoke had settled and all was said and done, none of it had happened, and it would all turn out to be a mountain of lies. And an avalanche would come cascading down that mountain soon after, as Sasha felt she needed to step away from World Wrestling Entertainment, knowing her worth and knowing she was being treated nowhere near her value. You see, when people say Sasha Banks is one of, if not the, best women's wrestler today and possibly of all time, it's not fandom or some wild statement a casual fan might say. It's reality. A truth based on facts gathered together over years of phenomenal matches. When you think about it, Sasha Banks has been nearly every female's best match that she's faced. Charlotte Flair, several times, her greatest match. Bianca Belair, her greatest match to date. Bayley, several times, her greatest match. Becky Lynch, Ronda Rousey, Asuka, Carmella, Io Shirai, Io Sky. If not best for all, one of for sure. She is literally the common denominator in every female's best match. However, the company has always refused to fully put the machine behind her, despite being a polarizing figure that draws loud receptions and can actually wrestle. What a crazy concept. In fact, in Sasha's entire main roster career, stemming back from her debut on December 30th, 2014, 8 years ago, Sasha has only held 6 singles championships, 5 times Raw, 1 time SmackDown, and 3 of those 6 title reigns combined lasted only a few months, as Sasha had to play hot potato with the title and Charlotte Flair. Vince's goal was to hotshot Charlotte's title win count at the time, so the buzz would be surrounding Flair's incredible achievements as she embarks on overtaking her father's title win record. So if you take away those 3 title reigns, which many looked at as a farce in the Charlotte Flair agenda, Sasha has really only had 3 reigns of any relevance. And even then, her booking never complemented what she could actually deliver. When she finally took a step back to see the bigger picture, it was clear she wasn't even on it. While she watched ladies like Charlotte Flair get her 10th, 11th, 12th championship, or Alexa Bliss get her 3rd, 4th, 5th title win, you start to ask yourself, wait a second, am I truly getting the respect that I feel I've earned? Am I getting the absolute best booking possible for all that I have given to this company? The answers are ridiculously rhetorical. Of course not. Nowhere near. So then Sasha decides to downgrade herself to let all of Vince's favorites achieve the utmost in success, while she remains an onlooker. She says, okay, well, I'll do this tag team thing, Vince, with my best friend Bayley. I'll hover around the tag team scene, but all I need from you, Vince, is your word that you won't let me fall. Your word that you will not let us fall. That I can take your word as bond, that if we go all in on this, you supply us with an actual division with real tag teams, that you focus on storylines and give us the time. We will do the rest. She was lied to. The tag division was a bust from the beginning because McMahon never had any intention on making it prestigious, much less relevant. When Sasha saw that she couldn't even get respect downgraded to a non-existent tag division, it was clear she needed to step away. Only deciding to return after VKM flowered her with even more lies, wishful ideas, unobtainable dreams, and false hopes. It wouldn't take long before she found herself in the same exact situation, back in a tag team with a good friend, this time instead of Bayley, Trinity Fatu Naomi. But still, the same non-existent tag division and a CEO that had zero intention to spend one moment of his day even caring about the division. Once word broke that Vince wanted both Sasha and Naomi to do the job for his current singles champions at the time, then go right back to the shambled tag division, Sasha said enough. And it shouldn't be hard to see why Naomi was right there by her side. Naomi has been with the WWE over 12 years, dependable, never a problem, took Vince's befuddling booking with a smile and did what she was asked, showed up to work every show and did what she was asked. And from day one, it was clear she was above average. Every match she's ever been in, usually the highlight reel of the match is Naomi. The human highlight reel. It's always Naomi that we're talking about. It could be her aerial assault in a singles match or some wild spot she just did in a Royal Rumble, which she's done numerous times. We're always talking about these cool, innovative moments by Naomi. Yet despite garnering interest and getting people talking, Vince McMahon never put the machine behind her. Even when she came up with ideas that would make the company a nice merchandise profit, like creating the Glow title, Vince McMahon never backed her ideas, instead punishing her for showing up to a live event with the Glow title instead of seeing the potential and value the title could have on so many fans. So Naomi was forced year after year to take the backseat to the chosen ones like Charlotte Flair, praised as the most athletic female in all of WWE. Of course, there's just one problem with that statement. It's false. Many would claim that Naomi is and has been the most athletic female in all of WWE since her debut. If one is to say that Naomi cannot perform a moonsault or a cartwheel or natural selection, well, one would be completely false and only lying to themselves. In fact, many of the athletic risks that Naomi takes, we're not so sure Charlotte could even pull them off. Yet there's Naomi watching Charlotte get 12 singles titles in just 6 years, while she is supposedly only good enough to hold 2 singles titles in double the time, 12 years. That's right, if you want to act or say or even truly believe that someone like Charlotte Flair is that much better than Naomi, that's completely fine, eye of the beholder. But 12 titles to 2 in only half the time? That's not better, that's an agenda. And Charlotte is only one example of a laundry list of individuals that Naomi was placed behind because VKM never wanted to even try to push her. To Vince, she was only good enough to win the title if it's Black History Month or her hometown of Orlando, not based on what she's earned. So she's told she'll be in a tag team with good friend Sasha Banks. All of the lies once told to Sasha and Bayley are now being regurgitated to Sasha and Naomi. And like Sasha, it doesn't take Naomi long to figure out. Vince screwed them. He completely screwed them. Tag titles in a non-existent division is as good as a swimmer in an empty pool, a race car driver in a paddle boat, a chef with no kitchen. It cannot work. You could have the greatest tag team in the history of professional wrestling. If they don't have a platform to perform on, it won't work. So on May 16th, upon finding out they'd be involved in more booking that would in no way elevate their status in the company, that instead of having a meaningful tag team title match, they'd be jobbing out to both singles title holders because the company had nothing for said singles champions at the time, Sasha and Naomi, Mercedes and Trinity had finally garnered enough respect for themselves and courage to stand up for themselves. They walked into the office of John Laurinaitis, placed the tag titles on his desk, and walked out of WWE. The company has since deflected any blame or criticism from themselves and placed it directly on Sasha and Naomi's shoulders. Refusing to see the disconnect with his own talent, McMahon never truly tried to defuse the situation. He called Sasha and Naomi's bluff, thinking they wouldn't actually walk out. Sasha and Naomi said, "Hold my beer." For many, WWE strategy worked. They waved the WWE flag proudly. They can do no wrong. They condemned the actions of Sasha and Naomi, saying how dare they go into business for themselves, how dare they act ungrateful, they had a job to do, just do it. To which they'd be wrong to the most amplified of measures, of course. Because to have a job to do would imply that you are employed, which in turn would indicate that you are an employee. The problem with this is that WWE doesn't have their wrestlers as employees. They are called talent in WWE, and they are contracted to make what are called appearances, not to do jobs. There are massive differences in being an employee at a job and a contracted talent for a company. When you're an employee, you are beholden to your employer's mission statement, and your sole obligation, above any other, is to put your employer first. But when you're a contracted talent, your sole obligation, above any other, should be yourself. Because a contract, unlike employment, has an end date. Contracts expire. And when a contract has expired, that company has no legal connection to you whatsoever. You can be tossed to the curb like yesterday's garbage. This is why the quality of work that you put in and how you're used, how you're perceived, it matters for all future work you obtain elsewhere. This is even more true in professional wrestling, where if one company that has contracted your services is not utilizing you to your highest potential and value, well, your potential and value elsewhere will be greatly diminished. It's like the Chicago Bulls, right out of college, contracting Michael Jordan, this massive contract, and for the next 5 years, they have Michael Jordan ride the bench. And then when the contract is up, the Bulls kick Michael Jordan to the curb. Well, Michael Jordan's next contract is going to be greatly diminished because no GM, no team is going to take a massive gamble on a guy that's just ridden the bench for 5 years. They know he was really good in college, but from day one he's been on the bench. They're going to think there must be a reason. Meanwhile, Michael Jordan knows he's the best player in the league, or should be. He knows his value, his worth, how good he is. And here he is riding the bench for 5 years. Yeah, Michael Jordan's going to be pissed. Especially because he knows the next contract he's going to sign is going to be for peanuts because nobody wants to take the gamble. It's like that way in pro wrestling. What have you done for me lately? If there is no name value attached to you, if there's no character that fans can know you by, reasons to care because you were booked so badly in the past, in effect, your career, your livelihood is in jeopardy. It's so important when you're a contracted talent to give a shit about the trajectory of your career at all times. And Sasha and Naomi are vilified because they did such, when WWE themselves have shown you so many times how expendable their talents are to them, not even honoring full contracts and releasing dozens upon dozens of wrestlers at a time. The contradictions and hypocrisy is ludicrous when people think it's okay for Vince McMahon to not honor a contract and walk away from their agreement. But when the talent does the same thing, it's somehow all of a sudden unacceptable. Vince uses more lies like budget cuts, ironically during time frames of their highest recorded revenues in company history. So because of downright greed, talent is told, sorry kid, we can't honor your contract, all the best in your future endeavors. But when talent has to step out of a contract because they're burnt out or they're tired of being lied to, they see no progress, they're feeling undervalued, that their art is becoming meaningless. Oh no, absolutely not. You signed a contract. How dare you? You shall remain in your prison. It's completely ass backwards. Contracts give the company all of the power, and the talent are just at their mercy. I give Sasha Banks and Naomi, Mercedes and Trinity all of the respect imaginable for having the courage to stand up to Vincent Kennedy McMahon and turn their backs to him. The only thing worse than change is no change at all. Unfortunately, change never occurs until an individual or individuals decide that enough is enough. And it's time for a change. Much love to Owen Hart. And so here we are, 4 weeks away from the Survivor Series, November 26th. And word around the campfire is that Sasha Banks and Naomi are being brought back into the company. An agreement reached between all parties. Boston, Massachusetts is the venue, Sasha's hometown. The story writes itself. Since they've left, Mercedes and Trinity have been living what seems to be their best lives. Premieres, award shows, walking the runways. They've done an outstanding job showing everybody there's more ways to generate buzz and opportunities without having WWE's approval and holding your hand every step of the way. The perception that they have made for themselves since their WWE departure is that their value is far greater than what was on display in WWE. But with Triple H taking over the reins of that old bastard in Stamford, Connecticut, and Sasha and Naomi teasing more and more lately about their return to wrestling, I think we all can agree it's time to play the game. Triple H is now left to pick up the pieces from the destruction that Vince McMahon created on his way out. Not just with Sasha Banks and Naomi, but seemingly just about everything in that company needs to be resurrected. Needs to be restructured from the ground up. Vince McMahon poured gasoline all over the WWE. He lit a match. He set that company on fire, and then he walked away, leaving his son-in-law Paul Levesque, Triple H, having to put out this massive blaze. Whether it's Survivor Series or in 2023 when Sasha and Naomi return, Triple H has to do the right thing. Naomi has earned her right to solid, meaningful booking, and Sasha Banks has earned her right to finally stand on top of the wrestling world. The naysayers will say Triple H is rewarding bad behavior, but we will know the truth. He's just putting out a massive, meaningless fire and hoping that from the ashes rises a better WWE.